Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 3 of Virgo. Um, I am happy to be talking to you this week. I actually think this might be my favorite week of the month, of Virgo month. I'm not exactly sure yet, but we'll find out by the end of the week. Speaking of which, I wanted to ask you guys and reflect back on how was that new moon in Virgo. It was last Saturday, August 27th. Today, I'm making this on Monday, September 5th, Labor Day. Happy Labor Day. And I had some interesting stories that came out of that. The interesting energy I think I talked about in the last moon was that the new moon was the sun and moon were together in Virgo, and they were squaring. They were in an exact 90-degree square with Mars in Gemini. And so one of the things I had said to watch with that was things that come out of your mouth that might not be very nice. And so I was at dinner with my daughter last Friday night, and we were at a winemaker's dinner, and the winemaker was talking about his wine, and they were going on, and this one woman was asking lots and lots and lots of questions. And this one other woman at a different table finally said, "This sounds like a personal conversation." And the whole room went dead silent. The winemaker said, "What?" and then abruptly ended, and he walked out of the room. And luckily we were close to the end of dinner, so that was the end of that. But it was just really interesting to see just like that come out of her mouth and say something that, of course, we were kind of like, okay, this is going on a little bit long, but I was just like, whatever, I'm just gonna be a part of the conversation, and I'll keep learning stuff about wine. And yeah, it was super interesting. So I just was a witness to that all weekend. The other way, witness on a personal level, is I felt my energy. I would be like, go, 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 go. And then I would lay down. And then I would go, 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 and then lay down, which is this Mars energy that we'll continue to talk about for the next 7 months, Mars and Gemini. But yeah, so just think back on how that, if you noticed anything that last weekend, and how that went through. This weekend was what we call a first quarter moon. And so this is when the sun and the moon moves 90 degrees away from the sun. So again, it's at a square. And so that can always create a little bit of tension as well. It was in Sagittarius, so I've heard and felt a lot of that energy was a little bit more up. It's a good weekend to like really be social and be outgoing and all that kind of stuff. Definitely another weekend where Sagittarians sometimes can put their foot in their mouth. So if that happened, then there you go. But the cool thing is, starting today is the moon's in Capricorn. And so Monday and Tuesday are a good day to get stuff done. So this is like, I always think about like when we were in New Hampshire, we would close up the cabins on, on Labor Day weekend, right? And on Monday of Labor Day weekend. So this is a time where you're like cleaning out your house, or you're closing stuff up, or you're decluttering, or you're taking advantage of that extra day that maybe you didn't have to work this week to be able to get some stuff done. There's definitely some energy of getting stuff done, or whatever that might be. There's a finishing thing. Labor Day in the United States becomes an end of summer kind of thing, even though we're supposed to be 90 here all week, so it's not like summer's really ending, but it is something to that effect of a completion of like literally summer, because the kids are back in school. Because back in my day, in my old age, we didn't go back to school till after Labor Day. That doesn't exist anymore. But anyway, so Monday, Tuesday, your days to get stuff done. Because tomorrow, Tuesday, late afternoon, the moon moves into Aquarius, which is an air sign. And so Mars and Mercury in Libra, which is stationing retrograde, and the moon are all creating what we call a grand trine in air. So we go from a grand trine in Earth, which is a really good, solid, like momentum of energy, into a grand trine in air, which is a really good, solid momentum of energy. And the air, so what I like to think about is like, we made the lists in the Earth, we figured out what we wanted to do, we got some stuff done. We're going to move into air, and air is more about that relationships, more about that communication and talking. So it's almost like on Monday, Tuesday, if you're going back to work, planning the meetings that you're going to have on Wednesday, Thursday, maybe into Friday a little bit, but Wednesday, Thursday, like great day to have meetings, great day to have brainstorming sessions, great day to have like, those kinds of things, interactions with another. Especially because Friday, we move into Mercury retrograde late in the afternoon. I think it's actually at night. But it's already, so when we talk about this, it's already stationing retrograde. So let me see if I can pull that up. So first, let's pull that let's pull up the chart of today. So what I was talking about with this grand trine in Earth, this is what we're seeing Monday and Tuesday of this week, is this big blue triangle, grand trine in Earth, with getting that momentum of like getting stuff done. Then we move into a grand trine in air on Wednesday and Thursday. Mars, Mercury, and the moon are creating this beautiful grand trine in air. So again, that communication and really working together with that. Friday, this chart is for 4 a.m. because I have it set for the full moon, which we'll talk about, which is Saturday. But on Friday, Mercury, where's Mercury? Mercury is over here, is stationing at 8 degrees and 53 minutes retrograde at Libra. It will go retrograde until October 2nd. And so the big thing to notice are a couple of things. One is, let's say Friday is September 9th through October 2nd. It's about a 3-week period, usually just around 21 days, give or take. And this energy is about, again, it's re-looking, re-watching, rethinking, re-contemplating, reviewing. Energy that you have used moving forward over the summertime, maybe even within the last few weeks. We've been in what we call a shadow period. So some issues that may have come up during that time frame could be resurfacing during this 3-week period. I think one of the things that, so the thing you want to know is that if you know your chart, you can look at 8 degrees Libra all the way back to, where does it go back to? 24 Virgo. So if you have planets between that 8 degrees Libra and 24 Virgo, this Mercury retrograde is more impactful for you. Or if you have aspects, or if it hits an angle, as we call it, without going into details, you need to know a little bit more about that. But this is why some people feel Mercury retrogrades more than others, because it really needs to have an aspect to your chart. So some people have a terrible Mercury retrograde where everything went wrong, and some people are like, I didn't even know what was going on. Inevitably, usually we have computer issues, and inevitably we might have a flight, difficulty or something like that, or car trouble. Almost everyone can run into that along the way, but it's more about, but if it's directly hitting your chart, then you really get to experience it a little bit stronger, and it's giving you the opportunity to look at things a little bit deeper. One of the big things about a Mercury retrograde is, whether you know this or not, it's often said in general astrology, don't sign contracts, don't buy anything, don't actually execute anything. And the truth is that's not true. What Mercury retrograde is asking us to do is review something that we may already be in play, and to really take a closer look at something. Like, for instance, maybe these videos for me, right? Like, I have to review, I'll get the opportunity to review. Is this the way I want to present the videos? Is this how I want to present this information, or something like that? That could be something that I would be looking at. But the biggest thing is, don't take shortcuts in a Mercury retrograde. There's, because Mars is in Gemini, it's creating this quick energy. Things are moving at a little bit more of a rapid pace. Mars likes Gemini because they both like to move fast, but things get dumped. Gemini, isn't known for their amazing attention to detail. I'm a Gemini, so I can say that. That is not the part of my chart that gives me the detail-oriented part. That's my Virgo. So I think the big piece is to understand that if something's already in play, if you started something this summer, or you started something, or you're in the midst of something that is already going on, or like, for instance, this is one of the biggest things I hear a lot, is like, we already were looking at a house, or we already were looking at a car. We've been looking for this car or house forever, and now we have to sign a contract during Mercury retrograde. Okay, great, no problem. That was already in process and already in place. So don't make a big deal out of that. But if you impulsively, thank you, Mars, or all of a sudden you're like, I've got to have that sports car, or I've got to have that, whatever it is, impulsive, that feels a little more impulsive, and you haven't considered that you needed it beforehand, then that is where Mercury retrograde can really probably help you make not as good quality decisions. So this is a big thing just to consider when you're doing this. With this Mercury retrograde that is coming up on Friday, September 9th, again, in play through October 2nd. And I'll talk about it more because Mercury will make some aspects to the planets around the world during this time frame. It is really stationing essentially opposite Jupiter. It's off by 3 degrees, But as we can see here, Mercury is at 8 degrees Libra. It is stationing opposite Jupiter. So last week I had talked about the storyteller and what stories are we telling ourselves and what stories are we telling others. So because of this air component of where Mercury is beginning its retrograde, it's interesting to really look at like that exact thing. Like this story that I'm sharing out in the world, is this really true for me? Is this really how I want to be seen, or that kind of thing? Checking my notes because Mercury is going to be retrograde. Good thing to do, back up your computer programs. If you're traveling, I tend to find with travel that it really happens right around when Mercury begins to retrograde and right around the end that Mercury finishes retrograde. There can be travel difficulties. So if you already have travel plans for this weekend, and if you have travel plans around the second, oh shoot, I do, when Mercury comes out of retrograde, to be patient. It's not easy with Mars and Gemini, but it is necessary if you are going to, if you're going to be traveling at that time. You don't have to change your plans, but just, just to know that there may be some snafus, would be a word I might use. So that's good to know. Okay, let's look at the full moon this weekend. I actually really like this full moon. I will share one thing that I think can be a little bit, trip things up a little bit, but I do like the full moon. And I also like the new moon at the end of the month, which I'll talk about later. But this full moon is at 17 degrees Virgo. So the sun is at 17 degrees Virgo over here. The moon is 17 degrees Pisces. So this is a full moon in Pisces. The things that are interesting about this is, number one, this is 7 degrees apart, but Neptune is in Pisces and the moon is close enough that I'm going to say, yeah, the moon is conjunct Neptune in this. And that's an interesting thing to think about because the sun will be at 24 degrees Virgo and will be opposite Neptune the following weekend. So we're kind of beginning this whole Neptunian experience for the next few weeks. And so for at least I would say the next 8 days or something, starting with this full moon. And this thing about Virgo is, and you guys can feel this, there starts to be more of a chill in the air. There starts to be more of, the kids are back in school. The vacation plans have changed. Work becomes a very big priority in the month of September. It's the end of like third quarter for businesses, is the end of September. So there can often be like sales deadlines and different things like that. So the thing to think about is Virgo energy is when we are leaving the enthusiasm and the light of the summer, and we're getting ready to turn towards the dark time of year. And we don't necessarily know this on a mental level, but we can feel it in our bodies. Like I said, the chill in the air, it gets a little bit drier in the fall. So our body tends to be a little bit more dehydrated. A good thing to think about with this moon is it is a water moon conjunct Neptune. So water is another great energy for this weekend. Being around water, making sure you're hydrated, like that simple of a thing to really think about. So just understanding that our bodies are beginning this metamorphosis to how we respond to turning towards the darker time of year, or, in the Northern Hemisphere, the winter, our winter. So the thing that's cool about a full moon, and I've talked about this like in some of my newsletters and things like that, is the full moon is when the sun is shining its full light on the moon. Last night I was looking at the moon, and it's a little bit past the quarter moon, and I was just watching, and it was so cool because I was watching the sun. I couldn't see the sun anymore, but like I was just like looking at it, and I was like, oh my God, it's just a huge flashlight. And so what I like to think about is that the moon is reflecting whatever the sun is giving it. So Virgo energy really is about being practical. It's about dealing with details. It's about dealing with work. It's about taking care of your health. It's about really putting your focus on, like, what are all the things I neglected over the summer potentially? My house is a mess. My health is a mess. I've been a little bit neglectful of how I eat and how I drink and how I play, which is fine. But Virgo month is here to clean it up. And so, but Virgo, so it can be very exacting. This is a word I like to use for Virgo: pristine, purification, and exacting, that exactness of something. Virgo is interested in Like, how did I get it right? Like, how did I impart this information to you guys? Was it really useful? Virgo's very interested in being useful. So I think it's important. We've got to get our work done. We've got to be precise about how we are getting our work done, or how we're getting our health back on track, or what it is that we need to do in order to do that. But with this Piscean light shining back, so if we think the sun is shining the flashlight towards the moon, and then the moon is reflecting light back on the earth, what is Pisces trying to tell us? What is the moon and Neptune and Pisces trying to share with us? At its best, it's reminding us to daydream. It's reminding us to get still enough to slow down and remember why we're being exacting. What is it that we're becoming more precise with? For example, if we say, okay, we got a little bit out of hand this summer, drank a little too much, ate a little too much, whatever, and now we're like beating ourselves up, because Virgo can be the critic, beating ourselves up, and we're like, I have to do a diet. I've got a blah, blah, blah. But we're like doing it that way versus being like, you know what, my body, I feel like I've not taken care of the temple. And I feel like it's time for me to take care of the temple, versus like, being a punching bag for ourselves of like all the things we did or didn't do this summer. Pisces reflects back compassion and kindness, and that ability to be more gentle. Pisces energy can be more gentle. And so to find that balance of Virgo shining the light, the Virgo sun shining the light out, saying, let's get this right, let's get on track, let's get organized. And Pisces like, yes, and let's remember to daydream, and let's remember to be kind, and let's remember to be compassionate, and let's remember to bring all this this gentleness to how we do what we do. And don't forget the water element. Don't forget to bring in, make sure we're hydrated, make sure that we're taking time to meditate, making sure we're taking time to be still. I just took my dog for the slowest walk ever. She's 13 years old, and I'm in flip-flops. This is not a sprint. This is literally, we're just going slow. So I think just really paying attention to that full moon energy this weekend. The other cool piece about it is the moon is in exact sextile with Uranus right up here. And the sun is trining Uranus. So this Uranus energy is also potentially reminding us of, like, again, how are we not being kind to ourselves? Or what is a different way to be kind to ourselves? Or, okay, every September I do a cleanse, and this is how I always do my cleanse. And it's like, well, I don't actually want to do it that way. So what's the other way that I could cleanse or clean out my body? Or what is it that I want to do? So it's not necessarily like, I've got to do it this way. It's leaving. Uranus gives us the opportunity to think about doing it in a unique way, or maybe a different way, but still doing it, still using the energy of the full moon to be able to make the commitment to, I'm going to do these things, but I'm not going to do it the way I've done it before. And I'm going to consider this new way that my body really needs to be treated. So that's a really interesting way to bring in some of that kind of energy. The other thing I want to say about Virgo Pisces energy that I often talk about, or I've really been playing with lately, is efforting versus allowing. So Virgo energy is very effortful. It is like effort, effort, effort. Like the more effort I put out, the better it will be. And the harder I work, the better it will be. And Pisces is not as interested in, Pisces is more on the allowing side. Pisces is like, if I give myself the space to daydream and to actually think about how I want to do this video, for instance, before I do it, then I only have to do one take, versus like getting really rigid about it. And then I have to do 7 takes, and so it's the same amount of time. But the cool piece is I got to daydream instead of effort. So think about that in your life. Like, where do you only effort and not allow? And where do you allow too much and not do enough effort? And there's a balance in there, right? We're in Libra now, or we've got Mercury in Libra going backwards. That might be something to consider during the Mercury retrograde. Where do I over effort and not allow? And where am I too receptive and I don't effort enough? And maybe being able to find some kind of balance in there of what does this really mean for me? So yeah, that's really, really interesting. We're going to talk about this more because Neptune is in play for a few weeks. But I definitely also want to say that Neptune can be deceitful. It definitely is, and we can be deceitful of ourselves. Like, again, going back to the storyteller, like that story I'm telling myself, like, am I really, I find myself often, like when I was just walking, I was actually having a conversation with someone in my head that I never actually ever had. And I don't ever even plan on having with that person. Like I was creating a story out in the future. Thank you, Uranus, creating a story out in the future for something that it probably won't ever even happen. So I'm like preparing for something that is, that I could almost be manifesting. So, and it wasn't a comfortable conversation, by the way. So, things to think about with that. Where are we being deceitful with ourselves? Where are we being deceitful with others? And also, again, anytime Neptune is in play, we have to watch our bank accounts. We have to watch our emails. We have to watch where we're being deceived. This is always a time when like the Instagram hackers come out and the duplicates that come out, which I'm so tired of, but that they all come out and that kind of thing. So when this Neptune energy, so as a receptive person to really pay attention to, is Chris really asking me to do a reading? Because I will never do that, by the way. In this Neptune energy, I will say once again, I will never solicit you for a reading or coaching or anything. I will never solicit money from you. So if you see that, ding, 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 this is not Chris. So then the same thing with most of the people I know out there, all my other friends who are astrologers and all, the people I associate with, they will not solicit money through a DM on Instagram. So that is a red flag. And this is a time where you're really going to want to pay attention to that. So the last thing, and I know this one's a little bit long, but the last thing I want to talk about is Mars on Friday. It was on Friday. Yeah, Friday. Nope. Let's go back. Nope, it was actually Sunday. So Sunday, September 4th, Mars hit its Mars is now officially in, again, what we call a shadow period. So basically from September 4th through October 28th, this is what we call a shadow period. Mars goes retrograde on October 28th. It's about a 7 week. So what we've got, it's almost 8 weeks, 7 or 8 weeks, where Mars energy, which is this forward momentum, this drive, this ability to be impulsive, be courageous, be confident, things we're going to do in the next 7 or 8 weeks, we're going to get the opportunity to consider during its retrograde, which is 10 weeks long, October 28th to, I believe, January 12th of 23. So just to pay attention, and I think I'll just talk more about that in a different video, but we are now in that shadow period. So if like your forward momentum hits a brick wall during this time frame, or you're hitting some snags and stuff like that, just recognize that this is stuff you're going to be reviewing during the November, December, and part of January timeframe. So I just want to put that out there. And I think I'm going to have to talk about this more in a different video. But again, I hope this is helpful and I hope you have a great week. Thanks.